tahate praman. Jiva tattva shakti Krishna tattva shaktiman. Gita Vishnu Puranadi tahate praman. Jiva tattva shakti Krishna tattva shaktiman. Gita Vishnu Puranadi tahate praman. Jiva tattva, the truth of the living entities. Shakti, energy. Krishna tattva, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shaktiman, the possessor of the energies. Gita, Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu Purana Adi. Vishnu Puran and other Puranas. Tahate, in them. Pramana, there are evidences. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The living entities are energies, not the energetic. The energetic is Krishna. This is very vividly described in Bhagavad Gita, the Vishnu Purana, and other Vedic literatures. As already explained, there are three prashthanas on the path of advancement in spiritual knowledge, namely Nyaya Prasthana, Vedanta philosophy, Shruti Prasthana, the Upanishads and Vedic mantras, and Smriti Prasthana, the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Puranas, etc. Unfortunately, Mayavadi philosophers do not accept the Smriti Prasthana. Smriti refers to the conclusions drawn from the Vedic evidence. Sometimes Mayavadi philosophers do not accept the authority of Bhagavad Gita and the Puranas, and this is called Ardha Kukiti Nyaya. If one believes in the Vedic literatures, one must accept all the Vedic literatures recognized by the great acharyas. But these Mayavadi philosophers accept only the Nyaya Prasthana and Shruti Prasthana, rejecting the Smriti Prasthana. Here, however, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cites evidence from the Gita, Vishnu Purana, etc., which are Smriti Prasthana. No one can avoid the personality of Godhead in the statements of Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literatures such as the Mahabharata and the Puranas. Lord Chaitanya therefore quotes a passage from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text number 5. That's the next verse. Om Agyan Timarantasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshushun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, he forces my eyes open with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We're in a section of the Chaitanya Caritamrita which is a biography about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead who appeared 500 years ago. He appeared in the mood of his devotee, showing everybody how to learn to love God, how to develop their relationship with God, and what should be the natural result of loving God. Principally, he was spreading the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the process of Sankirtan, congregational chanting. At the same time, he propounded the very deep philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Bheda Abheda. Simultaneously one, but at the same time inconceivably different. Inconceivably different and simultaneously one. So, just prior to this section here, Lord Caitanya, he was in the vicinity of the Mayavadi philosophers. And he was choosing not to associate with them. So they started to criticize him. They were wondering, you are a sannyasi. Our business as sannyasis is to study the Vedanta Sutra. But you don't seem to be doing that. You're just engaging in this sentimental process of chanting and dancing in the association of other sentimentalists. So Lord Caitanya very meekly accepted an invitation to associate with these Mayavadi philosophers, Mayavadi sannyasis. And as he entered into their association, he exhibited a very meek and humble demeanour. In contrast to the Mayavadi philosophers, their ultimate conclusion is that we're all one. And ultimately that one is God. We all have the same nature as God, and in fact we are God. But Lord Caitanya, who was God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifesting the mood of a devotee, he took a very meek and humble approach. He came into their association, he sat down near the door after washing his feet in what was considered to be a contaminated place. And the sannyasis, they'd been criticizing him, they recognized him, and they came and asked him, Maharaj, why are you sitting here? Please come into our association. And immediately they became attracted, because Lord Caitanya, he'd come there not just to take their association, but to give them his association, to inspire them in elevating their understanding. And he used a subtle means to attract their attention, to change their hearts. He manifested a beautiful glowing effulgence. Lord Caitanya is known as the golden avatar. He has a naturally golden coloured skin, but at the same time he manifested the effulgence of a perfectly self-realised soul. And the other Mayavadi philosophers and sannyasis who weren't able to do that because of their lack of purity, they were contaminated by a misunderstanding, poor quality of intelligence. So they recognised he was a superior person, and they humbly greeted him and they invited him into their association. Then they questioned him in a gentle manner. Why are you acting like this sentimentalist? Why are you not studying the Vedanta Sutra, which is the business of the sannyasis, the business of the transcendentalists? Vedanta Sutra. Has everybody heard of the Vedanta Sutra? Most people? Yeah. Does anybody know what the Vedanta Sutra is? Vedanta Sutra, Veda Anta, end of the Vedas, the conclusion of the Vedas, and sutra means short codes. So it's the knowledge of all the Vedas encapsulated in short codes. So it's a standard of knowledge, a standard of spiritual sustenance, to be able to appreciate, to be able to approach the Vedanta Sutra and to study it. The Mayavadis, they've been they've taken shelter of an explanation of the Vedanta Sutra given by an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva appeared as Shankaracharya to present the Vedas, but in a covered form, in an indirect way, which is promoting impersonalism. So for those people who had that bent, that frame of mind, who were more interested in the energy and the merging and becoming ultimately the Supreme, then they became attracted to that philosophy. And so the Mayavadi philosophers, they have a, what's it called? Aruya Krishna Pradam Padam. They have a contaminated intelligence, because they haven't actually developed the proper conclusion of life, which is to develop a relationship with God in the mood of a servant. They still believe that they can become the master, despite so much evidence to the contrary. So many times when that you're trying to achieve that you're in control, you're the enjoyer, you're the supreme, and you get slapped in the face. That controlling and enjoying propensity is the initial, or the beginning of our fall down. We want to control and we want to enjoy in the material world. There's only a limited capacity to our ability to control and enjoy. Whereas the Supreme Controller, he is unlimited in his capacity to control and enjoy. So a wise person, they'll submit, they'll take shelter of that Supreme Controller and allow themselves to be controlled for the ultimate pleasure of the Supreme. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is concerned about the welfare of his parts and parcels, then his control is for our benefit. And we're also, as he's the Supreme Controller, so as the minute enjoyers, we have the ability to enjoy, but not in the primary fashion. We're not the primary enjoyers. We can enjoy by cooperating with the Supreme Enjoyer. Just like for the eyes, the ears, the nose, for them to actually experience real happiness, then they have to cooperate. If you're hungry, you have to find some good food, and you have to approach it, you have to put it in your mouth. And then the food goes down to the stomach digests it, and the actual satisfaction from the food is then distributed throughout the body. But for the senses to try and enjoy separately from the cooperation with the whole, then you can't just get much satisfaction from massaging the food. So that cooperation with the Supreme is the actual constitutional position of the living entity. Here the verse is saying the living entities are energies, not the energetic. The energetic is Krishna. The source of the energy, of energy is Krishna. Just like the example of the electricity. We see the energy manifested by the electrical energy. And we understand that we flick a switch, we pay our bills, then that energy is available to us. But there's a source to that energy. we have to trace back the energy supply system, and ultimately the energy supply system is maintained by an engineer, a person. It comes from a person. The energy is from a person. So the energetic is Krishna. And we as energies, we're part and parcel, we're dependent upon that supreme source. So Lord Chaitanya, he was asked by the Mayavadi sannyasis, "What are you doing? What's your program?" And he first told the sannyasis, who were very proud about their position as being learned Vedantists, but there's a play on Vedanta, Vedantists. Danta also means teeth. So those people who claim to be big Vedantists, then the scholars can say they're toothless. They've got no teeth, nothing to chew on, nothing to grasp with, because the big Vedantist, in the modern terms, the big philosophy is that, yes, impersonalism. We're all one, we're all equal, but practically it's creating chaos. So an actual proper understanding of who we are and what's our duty and where we're going requires a superior source of knowledge, which also includes the nature of that supreme person. So Lord Chaitanya, he was questioned, "What are you doing?" And he proposed to the sannyasis that his spiritual master informed him that you're not going to be able to understand the Vedanta Sutra, you're just a fool. So rather than trying to understand the Vedanta Sutra, if you take this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then you will achieve all success in life. And Lord Chaitanya, chanting, following his spiritual master, very quickly achieved the higher levels of experience, of understanding from chanting Hare Krishna. So much so that he was experiencing ecstatic symptoms, tears were coming from his eyes, he was dancing, and he went back to his spiritual master and inquired from him, "What is this mantra you've given me? What's happening?" And he described the symptoms, and his spiritual master said, this is the nature, this is the potency of the mantra. The mantra, which is composed of syllables, 3 syllables, 16 syllables, three words, 16 syllables, is non-different from the Supreme Personality of God. So by chanting this mantra, you're getting in touch with the Supreme Personality of God in a proper mood, and your heart is becoming transformed. And so for one whose heart is clean, is transformed, then these natural symptoms of love will develop. It takes time to develop this proper understanding. So Lord Chaitanya, he was questioned further. So can you say something about the Vedanta Sutra, the conclusion of the Vedas, the conclusion of this philosophy? Vedanta Sutra, many different groups have commented on it, and it's like a standard of understanding about the nature of reality. But some of the commentaries, particularly the commentary of the Mayavadis, is flawed. It's covered by clouded meanings, indirect understandings, and it presents a conclusion which cannot be supported by logic. Here we've got 3 different standards, prashthanas, path of advancement. Nyaya prashthan, is said to be Vedanta philosophy. Nyaya means logic. Logic. So there's three. Shruti Prasthana is the Upanishads and Vedic mantras. Shruti refers to the knowledge which was revealed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Smriti Prasthana, the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Puranas, this is the conclusions drawn from Vedic evidence by devotees, by great sages. There's some different statements of Nyaya, and Prabhupada quotes one of them here, the Ada Kukuti Nyaya. Ada Kukuti, kuku I believe means chicken, and Arda must mean half. So this type of logic is known as the half-hen philosophy. The half-hen. Once a farmer, he was looking after his chickens, and he contemplated that I'd keep on feeding the chicken, and he eats a lot, and he gives some eggs. I'm not really interested in feeding the chicken, I just want to get the eggs. So I'll cut the chicken in half. And of course, no eggs, nothing. So that's logic. That's a system. That's an analogy to describe a particular idea in logic. Mostly we hear Western logic. If A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. Things like that. But the scholars of the Vedic times, they were studying the nature. It's this particular system, this statement of logic was being used to refer to the acceptance of only part of the Vedas. You don't take the whole Vedic understanding. You need to be able to navigate through the Vedas. It's a vast body of information. Vedanta Sutra is the end of the Vedas, encapsulated little sutras, and then in order for that to be properly understood in this day and age, then the author is given a natural commentary, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is what we study every day here. There's another type of knowledge, type of logic. Just because your mother was born naked doesn't mean that she should go naked now. And this is a type of expression to counteract people who are saying, what's wrong with walking around naked? It's natural. Yes, because your mother was born naked doesn't mean that out of respect now she should be forced to go naked. There's some maturity, there's some civilization, there's some standards of behaviour. This month is known as the month of Damodar. And there was a couple of naked incidents during that pastime, that the two demigods, Nalakuvera and Manigriva, they got a little bit carried away with their opulence and their position, and they were enjoying drinking wine and associating with women, and they were bathing in the river naked, oblivious to their surroundings, just unconscious of where they were and who they were with and what was proper culture behaviour. And the great saintly person, Narada Muni, he came past, and the girls, they were able to capture their awareness together, and they quickly covered themselves. He's a great personality, we should not be disrespectful. But the two demigods, Nalakuvera and Manigriva, they maintained their belligerent attitude. Larrikins. And of course, Narada Muni, seeing them and understanding who they were, he was thinking, how can I help them? How can I benefit them? How can I give them some assistance? So he cursed them. And he cursed them that they was there, naked, exposing themselves. They should stand as trees for 10,000 years. The body of the tree is ideal for somebody who wants to be naked, exposed to the elements. You can stand there for so many years. The human body, the human form is not for that purpose. The nakedness was an expression of his disrespect, of their disrespect to a great personality. Even for us, bring it right back to home, the naked body, even when bathing, we should keep the body covered, because out of respect for Varuna, the demigod in charge of water. And but these two personalities, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, they were also given, part of the curse was that they would be able to remember their position in that particular life. So they had time standing there as trees to contemplate what they'd done wrong and still maintain a nice devotional attitude. And the other side of the curse was that they would be liberated. They would be liberated. They would see Krishna, and Krishna would liberate them from their tree form. So Krishna, when he was bound by a rope to the grinding mortar, he saw the trees standing in the courtyard of Mother Yasoda, and he took the opportunity to fulfill that benediction, or that curse which had been given so many thousands of years ago. Another, I'm pretty sure it's a system of logic, is the logic of the duck, which is followed behind the bull. I don't know what that is called, but the duck is following a line behind the bull, and he sees these big things hanging down behind the back of the bull, and he's thinking, oh, when is the fish going to drop? I'm going to be able to get something to eat. So it's like looking and seeing that there's some enjoyment here in this material world. When is it going to manifest? When is it going to become tasty and relishable? But it's not going to happen. Another analogy like that is trying to get milk from the nipples of a goat, on which the nipples on the neck. It doesn't work. The material world doesn't supply happiness like that. You have to milk the goat in the proper way. You have to find proper food. You have to tame the bull. You have to do so many things in order to live properly. So logic, and in the case of the Vedanta, the Vedanta presents different little sutras about the nature of the absolute truth. Krishna says, I am the Supreme Personality. I am the Absolute. There's little sayings. If you're trained in philosophy, then you can understand, well, that means like this. But it's just little snippets. The Upanishads, the Shruti, the Upanishads and Vedic mantras, they also embody this truth in a simple way. The logical presentation of the Vedanta it's systematic. It's systematic. If you can't apply logic and reasoning, then there's chaos. But our logic and our reasoning, it's said that the Supreme Personality of God cannot be captured by our logic. It's not sufficient. We need to get access to the Supreme through the Shruti and the Smriti. The Smriti is conclusions drawn from the Vedic evidence presented by the great devotee. We're able to understand from people who are self-realized. We have to have access to that source of information. And then we can get a taste, we can get a feel, we can get an experience of what is the nature of the absolute truth. But then in order to avoid, as Ajita said a couple of Sundays ago, this chapter reveals the nature of the absolute truth. Lord Caitanya in 5 features, Krishna in 5 features. And then very next section is, you look at these guys, they don't know what they're talking about. And they don't know what they're talking about, but actually they embody a really corrupt system of understanding. I am the Supreme. I'm one with God. And then all of the different convoluted ways of explaining that and supporting that and developing that understanding. So these clear-cut expressions of the conclusions of the Vedanta, they are there to support us to avoid getting caught up in that misunderstanding and to be able to come to the right conclusion. Who am I? Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. It's okay, who am I? I'm spirit. That's the oneness. I'm a spirit soul. That's the oneness. But then we shouldn't make the misunderstanding, the misconclusion, that I am the one. I am non-different from the one. I am the one. The big one. And people talk about it, they sing about it. It's a current within society. We're one, but we're different. And the difference is described Jivera Swarup Hoy. We have the same quality as the Supreme, but different in quantity. God is great and we are small. God is the source of the energy and we are the little part and parcel, the fragments of the energy. So the proper conclusion, and then, okay, so I'm spirit, I'm not the body, I'm part and parcel of Krishna. What should be my business? I'm not the body, what am I supposed to do? Who am I? I'm a servant of Krishna, I'm part and parcel of Krishna, and in order to really become self-realized, I need to connect. I need to connect with the Supreme. I need to understand what is the nature of the Supreme, and self-realization without an understanding of the Supreme is only partial. By understanding the nature of the Supreme, we can understand ourselves, because we are a part, a parcel, a fragment of the Supreme. Just like if you take seawater, you can take one drop of seawater and you can analyze the composition of that one drop, and you can understand the composition of the sea, the ocean. Still, they're different. They're not one. They have the same composition, but in quantity, they're different. So this is considered to be real philosophy. Prabhupada makes the statement, this is high philosophy. This is high philosophy. Starts, confidential knowledge is, I'm not the body. I'm a spiritual living entity. More confidential knowledge is that I am a servant of the Supreme. Most confidential knowledge is, what is my relationship with the Supreme? Who is the Supreme? And what is my relationship? So, this is just one verse in a series of many verses which goes into elaborate on the elements of the philosophy which is used by philosophers, used by scholars, used by Vedantists in order to explain the nature of the truth. Devotees, they take shelter of the Supreme Personality of God in His form as Lord Caitanya. They follow in His footsteps. They chant the holy names and they understand their actual nature. They read these texts, read these literatures, and they develop a proper understanding which can be in discussion, in association with other devotees, can be clarified, can be refined. So then it's possible to meet different challenges from people who are sold out to the impersonalist way of living. And it's everywhere. In the early days, Prabhupada was smashing, hammering the impersonalists. And the devotees were questioning themselves. They were scratching their heads. Where are all these impersonalists? Where are these Mayavadis? In the West, and then after some time they realize, actually, it's us. We're infested. We're infested with the philosophy. We haven't been exposed to the higher understanding, the clear understanding about the actual relationship of the living entity, the jiva, with the Supreme, the energy and the energetic. And the energy and the energetic, that's one of the, it's described or discussed in these terms because that's something that bamboozles people. Energy and energetic, energy can transform. Energetic, if I take a piece of paper and I tear it up into little pieces, it's all dispersed. It If we put it back together again, different ways of trying to understand the nature of energy and energetic. But there's a source of energy, there's the engineer who runs the powerhouse, and then the energy is the manifestation of his tinkerings. And that's what we have access to. So I'll just read the verse again and see if anybody's got any questions. The living entities are energies, not the energetic. The energetic is Krishna. This is very vividly described in Bhagavad Gita, the Vishnu Purana, and other Vedic literatures. Any comments?
Aren't we also energetic?
How, Maharaj? Oh, energetic, yes.
You know. Too close to speak. Just yell. I mean, you know, we're energetic. We do things. We're not just energies. You know, I can do something, so I can call myself energetic.
No, that's word jugglery. we're energetic, yes. We're not just energies. Yeah.
But there's a difference. There's a difference between the supreme energetic and the little energetic. That was the point I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
So in one sense, although that category is given by Lord Caitanya there, energy and energetic in a general way, but in a more specific way, we also are energetic as well as energy, but I think we're not the supreme energetic. And that's the point that is made by Lord Caitanya.
Yeah, often when we discuss a philosophical term and the definition of how it's going to be applied in these circumstances, Shaktiman, actually when you go back to the original Bengali or the original Sanskrit, that gives you a more broad understanding. Shaktiman and Shakti. Shaktiman it's like, there's another word, avatar. There's the avatars. There are many, avatar means one who descends. So then on top of the avatars there's avatari, the source of all the other avatars. So little fine distinctions in the language. That distinction is not so clear in the English language. So we have to, we do have energy and we can apply that energy, but in a philosophical sense, yes, we're not the sum total, the source of all energies. Whereas the source of all energies is the energetic, is Krishna. It's like the sun. The sun is the source of energy within this universe. It's providing energy to all of the other bodies which can reflect light. All the stars, there's one sun in this universe. The sun provides health, warmth, nourishment, like that. But the impersonalists, the scientists, they're speculating about all different things, saying no, that there's many suns in many different universes. Something new's come up, there's Goldilocks planets. Goldilocks planets, which are planets somewhere which can maintain life. This is because previously the story was that this is the only planet where life can exist. But they're starting to open up the doors to allow the fact that there could be life on other planets. But their speculations are really just they won't relinquish their grip. We know what is the absolute truth. We know what is the nature of reality. So they're spinning all of these stories, word jugglery, playing with ideas and capturing the minds of people. Whereas from the Vedic scriptures, from the Shastra, we desire to be directed by sources of conclusive, absolute authority. And so we accept the version of the authoritative statements. In this universe there's one sun. And in every universe there's one sun. And that sun is the source of light. That sun it's unchanging. There's a personality, the sun god. The energy coming from the sun, there's the fluctuations, there's all sorts of things like that, but the sun itself is a constant, fixed. Okay. I suppose Adi can say it.
You mentioned the Smriti, there's the description of Smriti and Shruti, and Smriti is described as Vedic conclusions coming from Vedic evidence. So that would have opened up to some speculation. How do we conclude authorised Smriti versus speculative Smriti, like the Mayapadis are speaking at the moment? What authorises Smriti?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
There's Shruti and there's Smriti. Smriti was the conclusions coming from the Vedas. So the Mayavadis are also giving conclusions coming from the Vedas. So what's the standard of what's authorised? The Acharyas, the great teachers, what they propound, what they follow. The followers of the impersonalist, there was a description here of Sadananda or Yogananda. They speculate like anything. They make up their own terms. Even Buddhism is supposed to be based on ahimsa, non-violence, but they've interpreted that. They've changed that. Whatever you just beg, and whatever comes in, if somebody gives you non-veg food, then you accept it. That's just something that's come. But previously the standard was known that taking vegetarian foodstuff and therefore protecting animals, that was a standard of somebody who was following the Buddha. But they've just become slack, and they've not maintained their authority, not maintained their scriptural basis.
How can we understand we're qualitatively different?
Qualitatively?
Qualitatively saying but quantitatively different.
Mm-hmm.
How can we understand that? And Prabhupada gives the example in, I think, Bhagavad Gita, that 1 plus 1 in the spiritual sense is 1, and 1 minus 1 is 1. There's no difference there. So,
that's a mathematical example. And that's describing the use of mathematics, plus and minus. That you have to refer that back to the Om Purnam Purnamidamitam Purnam. That the nature of the absolute truth is that he's complete, and you can take the complete absolute away from the complete, and he's still complete. So, but the living entity, one in quality, but we just, it's practical experience. We can't exhibit or manifest that unlimited situation, that unlimited position. We are limited. So the difference between the gold ring and the gold mine, they're both gold and they both possess that quality, but one is a limited amount and one's unlimited. It's a matter of proportion. So one in business, but different as we possess individuality. We're different, distinct individuals. But the nature of the Supreme is he's also an individual, but he's of a different quality. The Vishnu Tattva compared to the Jiva Tattva. He's the Nitya Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. He's the one supreme conscious living entity who's maintaining all other conscious living entities. There's a source. And the example of the light switch, and if it's a child, his understanding that the energy in itself is everything, and that he's in control of it when he pushes the switch off and on. But a more mature understanding is no, it's actually coming from a source, from an energetic source. So something has to be developed. It's not something that just makes sense. Difference in quality and quantity.
You wouldn't be able to you won't be able to apply mundane mathematics. He's trying to use mundane mathematics to understand an inconceivable principle, so that doesn't work. So your example is faulty. The example you use of the 1 minus 1, is spiritually speaking, is 1, but that doesn't make sense mathematically. So there's where the breakdown of mathematics is. Mathematics is conceived of by the mundane mind. So if you try to apply that spiritually, because as you quoted that when the supreme whole is complete, and even when expanding is still complete. So mundane mathematics can't wrap around that. So that example is inappropriate to understand this qualitative and quantitative difference between, qualitative is one, but quantitative is different. So you're trying to understand it quantitatively with mundane mathematics, so that won't add up like that.
The best example is the drop of ocean and devotion.
Krishna Rupa was saying that the best example is the drop of seawater and the ocean of seawater. That's the ability to then see the difference. Yeah.
I wonder if I could have my...
But when you drop the drop in the ocean, doesn't it move into the ocean?
Does it? Apparently the air that Einstein was breathing.
That's one of the big presentations. That we may be a drop now, and once we get back in the ocean, we'll become the ocean. There's no difference between us and the ocean. It's one of the big Mayavadi arguments.
Yeah.
So how to answer that?
Well, we can merge into the ocean, but it won't stay there. We'll have to come back down from the Brahmajyoti. You could respond to that argument, no?
Not quite.
I was just going to say that you were talking about, sorry.
No.
You were talking about, just before, about that devotees in the early days realised, when Prabhupada was talking about impersonalists and Mayavadis, we were actually impersonalists and Mayavadis, but it's a condition that's rife throughout, the world. That it reminded me of something had been happening in the early days in ISKCON where Prabhupada was becoming very displeased. The things like his picture was put upside down on the Vyasa-san, and there were a few things like that. So, in order to compensate and trying to, please Srila Prabhupada, a couple of sannyasis were preaching to devotees that actually Prabhupada's Krishna. And Prabhupada became, when he heard this, he became very, very displeased. And he said, if you're saying that I'm God, then your next step would be to say you are God. And then he took, he ordered those, I forget how many sannyasis there were, 4, and he ordered them to, give up their preaching in temples, and they just had to travel. And, initially they were just camping out under a tree until they came to their senses. So the whole idea of impersonalism is very subtle, and we have to be very, very careful of that.
And Prabhupada came down heavy, and it's sometimes people get a shock. Why are you complaining? Why are you creating such a confrontation? Yeah, there was a guest came and started saying how it's where the light and like that, and I was giving class and I lost it. I told her to stop talking. She wouldn't stop talking. And I eventually said, well, do you want to take over? And I jumped off the seat, the Vyasa-san, and walked out. And she was still talking, no, it's all one. And like that. And eventually she got despondent because nobody was taking her seriously, and she wandered off, and I got back up on and described it. It's intolerable to hear those, because Lord Chaitanya, he would cover his ears, and he would say that you cannot call a living entity God. And some of his disciples who were saying, they were listening to that impersonal philosophy, Mukunda, he banished them, that you were not allowed to come back to my association for 10 million births. And the devotees asked, well, why? What has he done wrong? And Lord Chaitanya said, it's as though he's taking an iron bar and he's beating me around the head. He's preaching a philosophy that the absolute truth is impersonal. No arms, no legs, cannot eat, cannot walk. So that's to say like that, God is dead. That's offensive. So the devotees, that just galls them. They can't tolerate that, and they respond very like fire, very strongly to try and uproot that understanding. But unfortunately, people who are possessed of that knowledge, that misunderstanding, it's difficult to change their minds. They've been poisoned. It's actually considered to be like doomed. Spiritual suicide. So Lord Chaitanya, he used a particular weapon, a particular method, which was to manifest his beauty, attract them with his beauty and his charm, and to then get people to chant and dance and taste the sweetness, taste the nectar of understanding who we are and what is the relationship with God. Chanting Hare Krishna. I have to get back to that mathematical and the merging of the sea drop into the sea ocean. That's a misunderstanding of the philosophy. Even they say that the molecules of air that people have been breathing a long time ago, those we can still be having access to those things. They still exist. They exist as individuals eternally. Individuality is something that's not going to go away. We are individuals. We'll eternally be individuals. It's just a matter of becoming a healthy individual rather than a sick individual, trying to claim that we are the Supreme. Thank you very much. Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Prabhu.
Krishna.